The purpose of this video is to explain this combo box here that lets you see different groupings of the structures within a digital financial report. So here the first is the network. A network is a technical artifact of XBRL. So a network, this is a network, and this is a hypercube within that network. If there were two hypercubes in the network, you'd see two hypercubes here. And because this is selected and because this hypercube is selected, over here you see information about that hypercube. So here's the model. You can see that everything exists in one hypercube in this network. You can also see the facts, the rules, the verification results, and the terms for that network. Now, if I go to component, what this lets you do is see this is the network, this is the hypercube. So a component is a combination of a network and a hypercube. The reason the component exists is because it's possible to create a network and then put a hypercube in that network, and then also have the same hypercube in a different network. So for example, in the US GAAP taxonomy, you have the notion of statement table. And Microsoft, for example, uses statement table to create 128 different disclosures. So this basically solves the problem of non-unique hypercubes. And then you can see the blocks of information within that component. Here you have the assets roll up. So what's interesting is when you click on this, you focus on that one component. You click on liabilities and equity, and you focus on that component. You click on the component, and you see the entire component. You can also focus on the hypercube. So notice here that every hypercube is unique. There's no two hypercubes that are used to represent two different things. So for example, like I said, Microsoft in their financial report, they use statement table 128 times. If I didn't provide some other way of looking at this, then it would be confusing to the user trying to sort through the report. So again, you click on the hypercube, and you can see what's in the hypercube. The block. A block is basically one block of information from the report. So here you see that this report had 32 blocks. If I go back to networks, it had 24 networks, 24 components, 24 hypercubes, but 32 blocks of information. So why is it higher? It's higher because, for example, the balance sheet had 2 blocks of information, an assets roll-up and a liabilities and equity roll-up. So you can see that every one of these is unique. I think that's the case. Yeah. And if it's not unique, then there was a mistake. I can search on this. If I just type R-E, so you can see I can sort through, filter the blocks of information. So there's also an ability to view fragment of information. So this was kind of a mistake. The developer creating this made a mistake and implemented this. I didn't really want it, but it's actually pretty useful, because what you can do is look within a block of information for just a fragment of that block. So this is the liabilities portion of the liabilities and equity block in the report. I'll leave it at that. So another way you can look at this is by looking at each disclosure in a report. So now a good question would be, well, how do you actually know the information about what each disclosure is being represented and how it's represented? Well, the reason is because I put that information, I supplemented the information with the XBRL taxonomy. In the US GAAP taxonomy, there's no information about disclosures. There's just networks and hypercubes. But here, you can see that I'm looking at the assets roll-up disclosure. There's the name of that. I gave each disclosure a name. And you can also see that this assets disclosure, if I go to the balance sheet classified, you can see there's the assets roll-up. There's the liabilities and equity roll-up. So that's down here. I can look at them individually or combined into a balance sheet. Cash flow statement works the same way. I think that I'm going to call that good. The point is that these are all useful views. You'd really only need to have this disclosure view, but I'm providing all these other views here because people don't realize that the technical artifacts really aren't that helpful, and they're not building their reports correctly. But they're not building their reports correctly, or as they could build them. But if they were built correctly, you wouldn't need anything except this disclosure in order to view a report, so that you can understand the information in the report. Anyway, I'm going to call that good.